request Dr. Adish Agarwal, President of Supreme Court Bar Association. Dr. Adish Agarwal, President of Supreme Court Bar Association. I request Dr. N.S.N. Babu, Mahavir Prasad Kohli. He is the chief mover of Indo-Nepal Friendship Association, and he has his organization functions in about 22 countries. Mr. Mahavir Prasad Kohli. Before that, may I request my mother, Mrs. G. Krishnamoorthy. She should also sit here with us so that we commemorate my father's distinctions. Many years ago, I celebrated that 50th wedding anniversary. May I also request Narendra Singh, Dr. Narendra Singh, who is our Secretary General of the Indian Society of International Law. He is one of our oldest international law experts. He is a living expert in international law, and he is the Secretary General of the Indian Society of International Law. He has been an additional secretary in the Legal and Treaties Division and been in the government for more than 40 years. He's been chairman of International Law Commission for about 5 years. He's the recipient of the Basuni Award in the international law, which is one of the highest in the area of international law. Honors to Dr. Subramanian Swamy first, because he is a living legend. He is one of our senior most parliamentarians and one of the persons who's been in public life and shaped India's destiny literally from Mahatma Gandhi. Please give him a standing ovation. I would also like, both my sons, Mr. G. Amogara, who is from Brandeis University in Boston. He has come all the way for some other thing as well and to attend his grandfather's 70th. Then we would like to receive Dr. Subramanian Swamy with the customary shawl, which I will ask all of you to join in. Mr. Adish Agarwal will join me in giving you the shawl. अब दीजिएगा एक मिनट. So we also have a memento for you. Please keep that on, please, for the photograph, and we will give you that memento. This memento is for the great service to the nation by Dr. Subramanian Swamy. We will start with you lighting the lamp of keeping democracy alive in India, so that this first memorial lecture will keep on. I will ask all of you to join, but first, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, please come. Thank you very much. Thank you. And they are going to, perhaps you should wear it on evening if it is possible. It looks befitting.
Yeah,
yes.
that one.
Thank you. And, Dr. Babu, have you given? Okay, please, Dr. Babu will now also give a bouquet of NSL. Babu, he is a great educationalist, sir. He has done so much work in the area of education and research, extraordinary. And on behalf of the Indian Society of International Law, I will request Dr. Narendra Singh to give, and I'm sure with your Dr. Subramanian Swami to give his first memorial lecture. I'd like to say a few words about my esteemed father, Dr. G.V.G. Krishnamoorthy. Dr. G.V.G. Krishnamoorthy was immediately after he finished his law, he was invited to become a lecturer in the Osmania University, and where he taught for a few years. And although he got into the IAS Indian Civil Service, he did not opt for it because he wanted to pursue a career in law. And later he was he got into the Law Commission, Indian Law Commission, and thereafter joined the Law Ministry, which he served with distinction for about 40 odd years. He was also Secretary to Government for almost 6 years, and after that, because of his services, he was appointed as a. While in the Law Commission, he was instrumental in advising several governments of the day about legislation, about social welfare legislation, on legislation, constitutional amendments, and all those things, which he did with distinction. And thereafter, he was a great promoter of international law. This building in which we are was constructed by him in memory of V.K. Krishnamoorthy, who was an foremost international law expert at that time, and he constructed this in his memory because they were founders of the Indian Society of International Law. And he was also advisor to Narasimha Rao Ji when he became Foreign Minister, and he attended the United Nations General Assembly and was there for 3 months. And in a time when there was no internet, there was no cell phone, Dr. Swami will tell you, there was no social media, there were no computers, there was no Google, there was absolutely nothing. Everything was done on a typewriter, and they were visionaries who established the foundations of Indian foreign policy and democratic. And after that, when he was election commissioner, great passion, he brought so many election reforms, and you've seen all day since morning. Todi Saab had his functions, Prakash Nidhi Sharma had his functions throughout the day, where they spoke about the great reforms he brought in elections. And he was a very strict person. Somebody asked me a question. He was so strict, very strict in the same way to. I said no. He was a very kind man in the family. And as election commissioner, he brought about great reforms. And Mr. T.N. Session, another celebrated election commissioner, was chief of his colleague about T.N. Session as well. And all of them, despite their differences, have brought election commission to a great, standing. There may be ups and downs. But I hope we have to live for hope. We have to. My father was a nationalist, great positive person, did not have negative things in his mind. wasn't a political person with prejudice. He simply believed that we must make a great country, we must make a great society, great profession, and great constitutional values, and ensure that the vision of the which Dr. Subramanian Swami in his own way has done over the years. I want to just read briefly. It's all covered by flowers. No. This is a detail. I would urge you to go to Wikipedia and read it. It's good 15 pages of his profile. It's a great story that you can ever imagine of a person who served the nation from his very young days. He's a great economist. But I will just read a brief introduction, but we must always remember the most important things about him. Dr. Subramanian Swami is an Indian politician, economist and statistician who has been 6 times member of parliament. He has been 3 times member of Lok Sabha and 3 times Rajya Sabha. He was, as you know, former Minister of Law and Justice and Minister for Commerce. He earned his doctorate from Harvard University. It can't get better than that. A doctorate from Harvard University, where he taught for many years. Dr. Radhakrishnan, I remember, was asked, why don't you go and do law at Cambridge or Oxford? And Dr. Radhakrishnan would say, if I go there, I'll go there to teach. and not to learn, which Dr. Radhakrishnan did. And similarly, I think after Dr. Radhakrishnan is Dr. Subramanian Swami is taught at Harvard. Where he taught for many years and then returned to India before joining politics. He was a professor of mathematical economics. My son Amog Rao will note that, professor of mathematical economics at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. He was elected as a member of Rajya Sabha as a Johnson nominee in 1974. Cabinet minister in Chandrasekhar government in 1991. Between 1994 and 96, Dr. Swami was chairman of Commission on Labour Standards and International Trade. Dr. Swami was a long-time member of the Janata Party, and the Janata Party merged with the BJP, as you know. He has written on foreign affairs of India and dealing largely with China, Pakistan and Israel. He has been in the forefront of the Hindutva issue and called the Kailash Mansarovar pilgrim route in China, opened for Hindu pilgrims in 1981 and has visited the holy place twice. He saved the Ram Setu by getting a stay order from the Supreme Court. He was instrumental in expediting the Ram Mandir court case hearing, which led to the victory in the Supreme Court. He has fought numerous legal battles to liberate the Hindu temples from state control. He has been on the forefront of the ban on slaughter, cow slaughter and law against conversion. He has been an anti-corruption crusader and exposed many scams. Dr. Swami, as I did not read that you have a law degree, but I think you have performed great function as a legal professional in the Indian court, that many of us who have been judges or senior advocates, etc., you have done a great service to the country through the.
I have a wife who has a law degree.
Yes, of course. I invited her, I pleaded, and she said, no, I have heard it many times, and I will not be there today. And Krishnaji was my,
It's true Hindu.
Yes. Now, coming to the point, I was first introduced to Dr. Swami when I hadn't even joined the profession by Krishnaji, just after I joined perhaps, by Krishnaji, who had, after giving up a lot of finishing her duties with the children, etc., joined the profession with Sori Sorabji. I was introduced to Dr. Swami as a small child, literally in my professional life, at the retirement function of Justice Bhagwati. And I asked a very stupid question and he scolded me. He said, obviously you don't read the newspapers. But I'm happy to follow him since that day. That scolding perhaps reformed me and made me what I am today, because I didn't want to be embarrassed in public life asking stupid questions to eminent people like Dr. Subramanian Swami. Dr. Subramanian Swami is literally legend. There is a number. What he has done to the Indian democracy, Indian public life is unparalleled. We honor him as a living legend. His greatness is unsurpassed today, unsurpassable by anybody who is in the field, and it spans for more than 50 years in public life, and he continues to do that. I don't know of any day when he has not addressed at least a few hundred people right across the day, and perhaps several times in a day, to address people, to make a difference to people's lives. He's a great nationalist. We must give him a standing ovation. Please welcome Dr. Subramanian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. Distinguished members on the stage, and ladies and gentlemen. The topic given to me was democracy in Bharat and the electoral process. If there are questions, then I can deal with other subjects also. Being a politician, I can speak on anything. I want to say that it's a great privilege for me to address a meeting in honor of and memory of Dr. G. Krishnamoorthy on his 89th birthday. He was a member of the Election Commission as an election commissioner from 1993 to 1996.
99.
99, okay.
6 years.
6 years, okay. Well, maybe I lost track after 1996. He was brought in essentially, if I may say the internal story, to put a check on Session. Because Session could be controlled by anybody.
Not even by you.
And I didn't want to because I was minister of law at that time. But almost everybody is recommended that there's only one person who is not afraid of anybody. And that is GDG Krishnamoorthy. And so he was brought in and he kept a very good check on the station. And of course he contributed to the various deeper parts of the law of elections during his tenure. I'm therefore grateful to Mr. Rao for this opportunity to speak about this in the context of his father's contribution to the country. And I certainly would say that law is the election law has come a long way, largely because of the contribution of Session and the other two election commissioners who worked as a team and ensured that the people obeyed it. Before Mr. Session, most of the chief election commissioner, at that time only one of them, they were always under the pressure of the government. And they were appointed on that basis. But when I became law minister, I appointed Mr. Session. I knew him because these IAS officers used to come to Harvard for getting a degree in, MA degree in one of the departments. And one of the things they used to be recommended is that my introductory course on economics should be taken compulsorily by all these people. So a lot of IAS officers came. Session, of course, being Tamilian, and me, very fond of masala dosa and idli. His wife was a great cook, so I got to know him much better. And when I appointed him, rather, in those days we didn't have to bow before the Prime Minister. I had just to tell the Prime Minister, Mr. Chandrasekhar, that I want Session. All that he said is, do you know him well? I said, yes, I know him well. But I was surprised that Rajiv Gandhi said, are you sure you want to appoint him? He's useful for other matters, but as an election commissioner, I don't think it will be appropriate. You are taking a big risk. I said, well, I'll take the risk. And Session proved himself to be extremely good along with his two colleagues. And today the election commission may not be a patch on that election commission, but still the fact is that today the respect that the election commission enjoys is because of that period when the commission was consisting of these people, including Mr. GVG Krishnamoorthy. What I would like to say is that there is today no doubt in the minds of anybody in India that democracy has come to stay. It may be meddled with, it may be, some people may try to put some restrictions. But the fact is that whoever is trying to play with democracy has come to grief in India. And that is because of our long tradition, where we had consultations and so on. If you read all our, whether it's Mahabharata or you read Ramayana, you find that the king may be there, but there had to be a council, and he had to listen to that. And when he went out of his place, out of his powers and started becoming a dictator like Duryodhana, then of course he would meet his end. So this is the lesson we draw from the past, that India is being always a democratic country, and they, of course, I'm excluding those parts where foreigners came here and ruled for some time. But I'm saying that the other traditions, whether it was even military-minded people like Shivaji, they in their internal dealings, they were all very democratic and they followed democratic procedures. So I have no doubt in my mind that democracy will stay forever in India. And the question is how to go on improving it. And then elections become very important. Because if you take an election, then democracy is destroyed. So what we are dealing or what we have to do today is to see whether the electoral processes are being improved from time to time. And here I would say that one of the things that we have done since, after all, the Election Commission itself is has a constitutional status, and as you know that it enjoys its positions, it enjoys as a important part of the Constitution. So what I would say therefore is, what are the important things that we need to consider for any further improvement in the situation as far as the elections are concerned? And first of all is that the importance of the Election Commission should never be forgotten. It should not be somebody who appointed who because he's retired and the Prime Minister is doing him a favor so that he looks after the Prime Minister's wishes. That we should all oppose. And we must make sure that there's no harm if people from the civil service come, but they must have a background of being able to assert when the government decides to do something which they don't appreciate. And so the Election Commission's character should be constantly assessed. And fortunately, I find that our Supreme Court is doing quite a good job of doing a lot of it. And I think that the public opinion also should be more interested in how the Election Commission deals with issues. So what I would say is that the importance of the Election Commission is because the electoral process, if it's honest, then democracy will survive. Otherwise, the Election Commission, they can make a caricature of it. They can make, it might be a foregone conclusion. Of course, there will always be propaganda that there's a rigged and so on and so forth. I personally would like to deal with this matter of whether our elections can be easily rigged or not, because I've dealt with many. I have a well-known case in the Supreme Court in 2013, which the Supreme Court upheld not only electronic voting machines, but they also upheld what I had suggested, VVPAT. And the VVPAT has hardly been used because those who have been making out that my election was rigged and this happened and there was a fading ink or something. These are the things that are stated, but when it comes to actual working on the machinery available, for instance, today, if a result comes and you say that my election was rigged, then the VVPAT, which has taken all these slips, which are not part of the electronic system, but the slips come into a separate box, and that separate box is opened, and on that basis, a counter check is made on the voting. And so far, you'll be surprised to know that no one has ever asked for a recount of the vote using the VVPAT. All the time there's a talk, but there was only one situation when Mr. Chidambaram's elections took place, and the ADMK person said it was rigged. And because he said that machines were brought in and changed and all that, And when the matter was put up, for some strange reason, the ADMK candidate disappeared. And I have not seen him since then. He's not dead, I know that for a fact. But he's living a very nice, very comfortable life. Obviously somebody has got him off, got his silence. But so far that's the only known case where the returning officer said, okay, we'll have a look at the VVPAT and do the recount, which is based on slips. The slips which you see and then it goes down into a separate box, as you can see in the election radio. So that was a great addition to our election system, and it happened during the time when it began, the time when station and GBG and all the others, and there was, I think, a person on the scene in 2013 in my petition. Now, so the first thing I would like to say is that the most important thing is that the Election Commission has now a facility by which it can satisfy any candidate who has a doubt about his election being. So when you hear this ringing, you should tell the politician who is making that noise that certainly why don't you ask for a DVP recount, and you will find that in no case so far it has been done. The second thing I would like to say is that there is the election is not just voting and having your votes being counted properly. There is also a question of climate, and that climate has to be understood. That there is some fidelity, as they say, fidelity, that you stick to a party and then don't switch it after winning from that party to another party. Now there are of course mergers and so on, and those will not be counted as defections. For example, I was in Jansan merged into Janata Party, and then Janata Party merged into BJP to become BJP. So there was no change of party. That will not be counted as being a party. But the fact of the matter is that one of the major problems we had at one stage is somebody joining a party and then going to somewhere else. Sometimes it has been extreme. For instance, Bharat, he was elected on Janata Party ticket, and Mrs. Gandhi came to power. So the entire cabinet went to Mrs. Gandhi's house of Ajala and became congressmen, and they overnight they became congressmen. But over the years there have been checks that have come, and these checks were introduced by Rajiv Gandhi in 1985 when he brought in the 10th schedule in the constitution, which required that individuals cannot switch parties. He can resign and go, but he cannot be an MP chosen as an MP of one party and then switch to another party. That Ayaram, Gayaram is completely dead now. It's not there anymore because of this legislation. So this is a legislation which at that time there were a lot of hue and cry. This is freedom of expression, freedom of movement. All these matters were raised. But the fact is that since then, we don't find governments reforming, so on. There are some, for instance, Maharashtra, the Supreme Court is still grappling with it because the consequences of what they will decide will have a huge impact on Maharashtra. And so they're taking their time. But these are rare occasions. Generally, you find that now governments are lasting for 5 years. And that's a major change that has taken place since the earlier reform was suggested at the time of session and Krishnamoorthy and Gill. So the process started at that time. I remember constantly interacting with the commission. In fact, the other two commissioners used to tell me we speak to station because they were all afraid of speaking to station. And I, as a teacher, station would behave, otherwise. So I consulted with them over a period, and they were step by step this happened. So I would suggest to all of you who are interested in this subject, please do see the 2013 volume 10 SCC page 500, which dealt with this issue of electronic voting machines and how they have to be dealt with. Surprisingly, India is one of the few countries which is not dictatorial. Venezuela has electronic voting machine, but nobody takes it for seriously, because in Venezuela you don't have really free elections. Electronic voting machines come very convenient there. But Japan, which produces our electronic voting machines, they don't have it. Germany had electronic voting machine for some time, and then their parliament decided, no, this won't do. And so there are very few countries which are using electronic voting machines. America has partially here and there, but India is only democratic country I know which has successfully managed to use the electronic voting machine and get results which have been rarely challenged in the court on the basis that the electronic machine was misused. Now, I would also say that the question of defection, what we have sacrificed is the individual right to change a party, except that he can resign his seat and then go. There is no bar for somebody to resign his seat from parliament or assembly and then change a party. But he cannot, as he used to do before, get elected in a party and then join another party, but his MP-ship or MLA-ship would not be affected. That was ended with the 10th schedule, as I pointed out to you. Even where there are, although the 10th schedule is allowing that if you have more than 1/3, then collectively you can go across. But that will also be subject to some scrutiny, and that's one of the reasons why in the Maharashtra case this problem is still existing, and the Supreme Court has to give a judgment very soon on it, and that will be a major thing which you should watch out for. So the other thing I would like to say is that one of the greatest weaknesses of our democracy is internal party elections. And internal party elections in this modern system, in the 21st century, should be quite easy. The same electronic system can do it. But I don't know of any party, including the most organized party, which is the BJP. For the last 10 years, they have not had a internal party election. And everything is by nomination. The president of the party, Nadha, he was nominated. And then when his term expired, he was re-nominated by the same person, Mr. Modi. And so the election commission has now got a petition for me challenging the election of Mr. Nadha. I haven't made it public yet. For the first time I'm telling you this. I don't know what the election commission is going to do. It's a more timid election commission than we had before. But I think that even if you are in a party, as long as it's a question of ideology, and you see that your party is stepping out on ideology, then it's your duty to stand up. I give people the example of Winston Churchill. The Prime Minister before 1939 was Chamberlain. He made a treaty with Hitler, And one of the cabinet ministers was to Churchill, and he publicly condemned it. And the British public or anyone else never raised the question of disloyalty. How can you be in the same party and attack the leader? Because he was attacking the leader on an ideological point. And so similarly, I have today I've been critical of Mr. Modi because he has deviated from some of our ideologies. So the party workers don't understand all this. So they are provoked to attack me, but naturally this in the party cannot do anything about it. So they have to bear with it. But I personally believe that the society must encourage people who are in the party to stand up. This Congress party before Indira Gandhi came and changed it all was a party where there were free discussions. People had disagreements, and it was a purely democratic thing. But they stayed together as a party, and I think that culture of questioning your own party on ideological issues, on not on petty issues, but on ideological issues. This is something that we need to develop now if we want to improve our democracy. And I think the election law should also build that nobody can be dismissed from a party because you have challenged the ideology of the party. That we need to bring in an amendment sometime or the other. I can claim that at least for me, nobody has asked that I be expelled from the BJP, and I believe Modi told somebody is more dangerous outside the party than inside the party. So therefore, it's better to keep him inside and let him say what he wants. So this this tolerance has to be brought in. Because we believe in loyalty, there's almost this family attitude, घर की बात बाहर नहीं बोलनी चाहिए, that sort of thing, that mentality has to go. Because in a democracy, political matters, they should be open. So I would say that internal party elections are extremely important to be now brought in as part of the law. We don't have that rule just now. And if you find almost, I don't think there's any party which is having elections. I don't consider elections in communist parties worth the name. That's only election in name. Communist and elections, they are two contradictory matters. But the fact is that neither the BJP nor the Congress, any of them is having internal party elections. The internal party elections means there should be a membership. They should be based on a piece of paper which a person can show that I am a member, and then on the basis of by a series of steps, it should lead to the presidential election. President should be elected. Today, the BJP president has been re-nominated, and I believe that's totally illegal. I put it before the election commission, and if the election commission doesn't act on it, of course I'll go to court and raise the matter, and I'm sure that in court, the President Supreme Court seems to be ready for such things, so I think it should get a favorable hearing at least, and this will set the tone. So I would say the democracy can flower, and therefore the election system can improve. If the people understand what democracy is, you can disagree on principles, you can disagree on ideology. You can only thing that as a party member you should not do is personal attack. Unless it's an attack which has been, there's created a public furor, in which case you don't have to speak on it, you can bring in a disciplinary, disciplinary charge and a person to move. But the fact is that, broadly speaking, on issues, there should be healthy debate discussion. We don't like, even in a country like in a party like BJP, you can have different forms of Hindutva. We don't have to have Bajrang Dal's concept of Hindutva. You don't have to accept it. So in the party there can be a moderation we have created for it. BJP has now got many Muslims, Christians as members, and they don't feel at all alienated. It's because all of us, many of us, are very keen that while we may want a reform or what we call as a renaissance in Hinduism, that doesn't mean that we want to put down anybody else, because anyway in the constitution it's there in the preamble itself that we respect all religions equally and they have equal right to pursue that religion. So therefore, keeping that in mind, we should be able to even, for instance, on the issue we have a big debate whether there should be triple talaq allowed or whether there should be a question of the dowry. So many things we have reformed ultimately, but we need to do much more to make this our society a modern society. So I would say that the field that lawyers have, this is really a field for the lawyers or people who have law. I didn't take a law degree, but I did go to class in law. And I had, when I went to Harvard, I went to the economics department to get a PhD. And for some reason, I got two of the most famous economists as my thesis advisors. One was Simon Kuznets, the other Paul Samuelson, both first and second Nobel laureate winners. And I became, to start with, an assistant professor, then on to associate, and finally, when the full professorship came, I chose to come to IIT and became a professor here. Here, of course, Mrs. Gandhi got very nasty, and she's got me sacked without any conditions given. So I went to court. That's how I first learned about court. And it took me 24 years of education, but finally I was reinstated in IIT. I was given all my back salary, 80%. And I went for one day and signed that I'm resigning from tomorrow. So, because there was no point, I was already now, the only place I could go after Mrs. Gandhi got me sacked from IIT was politics, because everything else was blocked. Mrs. Gandhi somehow had taken such a dislike for my pro-market propagation and against her socialism that she ensured that I got nothing here and I would go back to America. I think in the later days when I became friend of Rajiv Gandhi, my mother thought it would go back to Harvard, but we didn't. So therefore, that's when I started learning law. And I would say today to everybody, and particularly to women, learn law. I've seen women who know law are stronger than women who don't know law. And so law should be taught, in fact, to everybody. The basics of law. And because in the future, like engineering, I think law is going to be also a very, very important field. Certainly there are a lot of people today who have become multimillionaires being in law. Some even reside in London and come through to television, the media conferences and get it both places. But I think law is an extremely important part for democracy. And the electorate will be much stronger if a basic education in law is given at the school level as well as in the college level. So this is the sum total of it, and I think I congratulate you on having decided on this topic and have called me. I certainly miss my repartee that I used to have with your father. It's not necessary that you have to agree to be friends. Very, very cordial throughout, but he was blunt, I was also blunt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this scintillating lecture, which is really made us all think, and your experience has been great use and help to the nation's affairs, and I'm very glad we could have you and we could speak some of it, and that we could throw light upon it, and more than anything else, a lamp that is lit here. We will continue to light it every year and ensure that we're able to get frank views. I'm glad you have spoken about your party. I did not say this before I start this lecture, but frankly, it is my personal opinion, if today the present political party is in power, it is the initial hard work of people like Dr. Krishnamoorthy who have brought the present political party in power. Of course, he served many ways. He is above positions. If he sits in any position, he adorns that chair. It's not the other way around. The personality must adorn the chair and not the other way around. And that's what Dr. Swami is. He doesn't need any position. What he says means great value and great impact for the society. And again, I would reiterate the fact that his party owes him a lot for bringing them to power. And I guess his comment about the Prime Minister is good to keep him with him themselves. And of course, if he's been frank, and no doubt democracy is the root, is the basis. And what comes to my mind is, I think my father pointed this out to Bharat when he didn't conduct elections for a long time. I think the Election Commission has its guidelines or the law that says that internal party democracy must be maintained. Bharat was very angry with him and made some personal comments, but he didn't care. So that's a very important issue that you brought about. Now, before we go on, I can just tell you a small, we'll have a few questions and comments, and then we have a small, pleasantries to exchange. I would like you to adorn three of our friends with a shawl a bit later. I have one question for you first, and then we'll let other people. My question is the recent judgment which said by the Supreme Court about having the Chief Justice also sitting in appointment for the appointment of the election commissioners, or even converting them back to cabinet rank from Supreme Court judge rank, etc. Would you like to throw some light upon that? Your mic is there, sir. You may just use that and say something about that.
See, already for some appointments, there is a committee of the opposition leader, the Chief Justice, and the Prime Minister. And committee decides on, say, the chairman of the All India Medical Institute and that kind of thing. So what you are really saying is it should be extended. Personally, I think that it's a good way of ensuring that favoritism and being supplicants to the Prime Minister should not be a factor in appointment of very high positions. And so there should be a full-fledged discussion conducted to see that which are all the important positions where I would say even the Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army or the Indian Armed Forces, this is finally done by the Prime Minister. But in my opinion, there's no harm in a situation where you don't have to have an electoral or have to take a vote, but certainly inputs from the Chief Justice, for example, they deal with a lot of questions connected with the army, on a number of issues in the war. So it's not that they are not aware of the army situation or the military situation. So there are things that need to be done. It has to be done step by step, but I think the step you have suggested could be done as soon as possible.
At least all around the world. The Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, GOPIO, is I'm an advisor to that organization. They have asked, and I'm not sure how many hundreds of people are watching you there, and maybe watching the match also at the same time.
I have my own people also.
Also watching all of you. but maybe we could have had it in an interactive session, but that's another matter. May I now ask anybody else who wants to, do we have a coordinate mic or would you like to use one of the?
You see, this senior citizens of this country is around 10% of the population, which comes to around 14 crores. And they were enjoying the railway travel concession before the COVID. And I filed the PIL in the Supreme Court for restoring their benefits, but which was denied. So is the government going to restore it? Or if you don't restore it, is there not a chance of losing 14 crore votes to BJP?
But I will have it checked and then I'll take some steps. Your question won't be in vain. Okay.
More and women as either intern or my office, and I think women play a better role than the men in our country.
Let me tell you that in the Hindu, what shall I say, the structure, the most important portfolios are with women. Saraswati has education, Lakshmi has finance, and Durga has army. So that also. I am 100 for any other god who might have got a portfolio account that none only has the information broadcasting.
Yeah.
I am really have a extreme regard for Swami Sahib because Swami Sahib I belong from Allahabad, Prayagraj, and he is my guardian. He was associated with my organization, Dr. Krishnamoorthy Sahib, and we have a lovely relation with Mr. Denkar and like my you can say mother. Sir, today when I came to know that you are here, I am excited to come here. I was in Meerut. The reason was to first I had a one-to-one meeting, and this was the memorial lecture of my guardian. Sir, one thing I would like to request, if you can support. Nowadays there is person who is fighting from two places at one time. Even I am talking about Mr. Modi also, my Prime Minister, one from Bharat and one from Varanasi. Sir, this is the total loss for our income tax pay. And I am one of the income tax pay under 50,000 of people. Some people are highest tax payer, I am one of them. I really feel very bad, but I cannot expect anyone can help except you. Because I have heard you are a man of struggle. If you can do something, I request you to.
A suggestion that has been put to me many times, maybe since you have raised it here now, I'll give it a second look and see whether it will get through. I mean, I'll make enemies of all the politicians who contest from two places. But the public also should get a more aggressive on this. If any candidate fights in for more than two constituencies, the public will decide that he will be defeated in both. Then you will see that after that there will be a salutary environment by which I can get this finally done legally.
Thank you.
Since advocate also, you are the economist and you are the very blunt in speech. I have a direct question with you. Each per capita income of the citizen should be linked with the salary of the public representative and the public servant. This is my question.
Income is GDP divided by population. And as far as salaries are concerned, they are determined by law. And so I cannot see a connection between the two. What you are saying is that the lower income people should now get a certain ratio with the most highly salaried people, and that ratio should be decided. If that ratio is decided, then we can consider that there is some equity between people of different status in the bureaucracy or in any other company or whatever. So therefore, this is something which I don't know whether it's easy to put it across because I think that the people who have a higher ratio at the higher income levels, they have a lot of power, which means that the effort that we have to put in, unless there is a public uprising, I don't think it will go through very easily. It may take a long time to get through.
Very well, because you may not recollect me, but we know each other very well. I am R.D. Gupta, superannuated as Additional DG CPWD. This building was constructed under my control and command. So on that 6th May it was inaugurated when Mr. G.V.G. Krishnamoorthy, based on his personal relations, brought president here. Normally this project is not worth the inauguration by the Honorable President in terms of quantum, but it was his personal. He has been my inspiration source of inspiration. Very long, we have been together since those days of 85, 86. And we have been in close touch. He has gone. Now, why I am talking to you is that our wavelengths are matching. I can do any and everything for the good of the nation. Face the bullets at Indo-Bangla border when the fencing was started at Dhubri. Now, sir, I feel pain that democracy has gone down to such a level that in electoral process, almost the political parties open every doors and want to take chair at any cost. I have seen Karnataka. It was highly painful. But the point is, as a citizen, I can't do. But you can do. You have been struggling so hard for many issues. Kindly, having in Supreme Court, you kindly help us. Because I can't digest this sort of treachery, with the country. This is my question. And if you need, I will join in Supreme Court. I will plead also along with you as to what is happening. Why you can't indulge in? They are throwing the ball to the election commission. Election commission is throwing the ball to the government. Finally, the ball comes again to the judiciary. What is all this going on?
Why can't the people take the money and vote as they like? Why do they get themselves?
Something this should be highlighted very much to the people.
Why should they be bound by it? When the politician is not loyal to the country and he starts giving money to get a vote, the people should take the money and vote as they like.
So, sir, I am really making a very humble submission. The poor of this nation, come what may, they get tempted when something free is available. And they are so sincere in their nature that once they take something from somebody, they do return the favor. I mean, this is a reality on the ground. Out of 140 crores, at least 70 crore poor people are of this nature. So kindly help us, sir.
No, I'll have to challenge that also. In 1937, when Mrs. Gandhi declared elections, I was told by everybody who could be called an intellectual, I was told by Americans, I was told by British, all of that Mrs. Gandhi will win it hands down because the poor people are happy that the trains are running on time and their bapus are coming to office on time. And they get a dole, and they will vote for her. And it's only the educated people who can understand this democracy. Democracy is not suitable to India. This was the argument given to me. what I found when the results came out is that the south, that is Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Andhra, these 4 states which are highly educated compared to north, they all voted for Mrs. Gandhi. Whereas the poor areas of India, that is UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, etc., all of them voted en bloc against Congress, and in UP they voted against Mrs. Gandhi and defeated her also. Mrs. Gandhi could get elected from Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, but she could not get elected from Uttar Pradesh. The poor people in the rival area, among the poorest, they voted her out. So therefore, I don't buy this argument that the poor people don't understand this. I am of the opinion that our educated people are too selfish, they don't spend enough time in politics, and that is why this situation is arisen. It's got nothing to do with poor people. There was communists, there were other parties who were also in the north, and this is the entire in Punjab, for example, the Akalis had one, then the Congress was there, communists were there. Communists were quite powerful in. So this will be a very long debate. We will have another discussion.
Quick question, and
the agriculture sector, there is no income tax. In the urban sector, the people who are below a certain line, they don't pay income tax. And people above a certain level, they've got chartered accountants and so on, so they get all exemptions, and ultimately they don't pay much income tax. It's the middle class which is. So the only proper solution is a complete abolition of income tax. That's the only way to bring about equity. And I don't believe that the current government needs revenue and therefore income tax is there. It's the smallest part of the revenue. You will see the revenue can come in a number of other ways. And if you abolish income tax and the people start investing more, and then that leads to greater production, then automatically income tax, sales tax and excise tax, that give you all the revenue and more than income tax can give. So that's what we need to do. But most of my politicians friends who I talk to, they say that we can't control anybody if we abolish income tax. Income tax is a very good way to frighten people, to call them for proceedings, and people fall in line. So it is used for a number of other purposes than finding for revenue for the government. So I would only say on your third point, better state it clearly, no income tax. Collect your taxes from excise tax and sales tax and whatever other indirect taxes are there, but don't do it by income tax.
As you talk about in your speech also that there should be a tolerance of criticism, and there is a tolerance of criticism, right? And correct me if I am wrong. By the time the BJP came to power, the word tolerance is always popping up. Why should there should be more acceptance? The word tolerance has a very negative connotation, right? हम बर्दाश्त कर रहे हैं, हम accept भी तो कर सकते हैं. And as you said that Modi is also tolerating you in some way. I think so. Why there should not be acceptance?
I have no problem with Modi. I say what I like. I every day criticize him. He doesn't say a word because he knows that if he says that, I will do more. And therefore, it's better to just let me say what I want to say. If everybody was not afraid to say what he believed in, I don't think you will have any problem. Don't expect tolerance from the others. You show that you will not bend. And that time automatically others will adjust. The politicians themselves adjust because they have to ultimately come for a vote. And therefore, I think it's a question of creating a mindset where people should, on public issues, not be silent. They should speak out. And I find that many major public issues, people are not willing to open their mouth out of fear. For example, the Chinese have occupied 4,600 square kilometers of Ladakh, and nobody wants to talk about it. I have been talking about it, but no newspaper will publish it because they have got an order from the Prime Minister's office that nothing that I say about China should be published in the newspapers, and the newspapers' duty don't publish it. Otherwise, if they do publish it, then the advertisement is withdrawn, government administration, and they are all be in trouble. So this is the kind of thing that is happening, and I think the public themselves should be able to speak up and welcome criticism and not doubt the person who's criticizing as for some personal reason and so on.